Hi guys, and welcome back to the video game with the powers. I'm Jake, and in today's video, I'm bringing you guys my in-depth review of the board game, The Sheep, that is coming to Kickstarter very soon. If you guys are interested in The Sheep, again, go ahead and check that link down in the description below. That will take you to the campaign page where you guys can give it a follow, or if the campaign is already out, you guys can take a look at it to see if you want to back this one. The Sheep is a board game for 2 to 4 players, ages 14 plus, right around 120 minutes per playthrough. And this one is coming to you from the team over at Zero Strategy Games. If this is your first time watching an in-depth review from us guys, we go a little bit more in-depth than maybe some other content creators do, and we break the game down into several different categories. These categories are theme, components, setup, length, difficulty, replayability, and price. Within each of these 7 different categories, guys, I'm gonna give them a number rating equivalent to the BGG scale. And at the conclusion of me talking about these 7 different categories, I will go ahead and give my overall rating for the game, where I'm gonna talk about some things that I really enjoyed about this game and some things that I particularly did not like about this one. And last, finally, to wrap up the video, since the majority of these games I do back on Kickstarter or GameFound myself, I will go ahead and ask the proverbial question: if I had the opportunity to back this game again, would I do so? Now, since The Sheep is a Kickstarter preview, guys, there are some things that I will not be covering today, such as the category for price, because I don't have that information. And of course, I have not had the opportunity to fully experience the mass production and final version of the game, so I will not be asking that proverbial question: if I had the opportunity to back it, would I do so again, right? But enough said for me. Let's go ahead and jump straight into my review, starting off with the theme. So when it comes to the theme of the game, guys, we are taking a look at how well the game immerses players in the story or setting, and I'm gonna go ahead and give The Sheep a 9 out of 10. In The Sheep, you are playing as shepherds, right? And you are tasked with a mission of protecting these caravan, escorting these caravan from one side of the board to the other. But you have to watch out at nighttime for these mutant sheep that are going to come and attack you. And so there's going to be like a day phase and a night phase. And it's funny because these sheep at the daytime are just harmless little sheep. But like I said, at the nighttime, they're going to transform into mutant creatures that are trying to destroy these caravans. And so if you manage to get all of the caravans across one side of the board to the other, you'll be victorious. If the sheep manage to destroy one of the caravans, then you guys will lose. But look, I think this is a 9 out of 10. I think they've done an excellent job here with the thematic integration. It's got excellent consistency between the mechanics and the story. You know, it really makes you feel it's this horror comedy style vibe. It's unique, it's unforgettable. It brilliantly blends in the tension of how challenging the game is with hilarious dark humor when these different types of sheeps come out, the mutated sheep come out, and you're trying to fight them. And at the same time, overall, it's just a hilarious, funny, brilliantly done vibe and theme here. Really quickly, guys, I want to go ahead and jump down to the table and show you kind of how these mechanics tie into the theme, and then we'll continue on with the rest of our review. All right, guys, so we are down here at the table where we have everything laid out for what will be a game of The Sheep. Now, as I mentioned, guys, your overall goal is, depending on the player count, you are going to have a certain amount of caravans over here that you are going to be escorting from this start space all the way down across the board to the finish space. And these caravans are going to be noted by standees, and you'll see I got a couple standees right here on the board, and I'll flip them over so you can see where these particular caravans are. And you will be taking on the role of a shepherd, okay? And there are 6 distinct shepherds in this game that are each going to have their own unique role, and I'll lay these shepherds down here so you can kind of see where they're at as well. And so throughout the course of the game, as I mentioned, there's going to be a day phase where you're going to have a couple different actions. You can kind of stock up on your gear and get ready for that night phase when the sheep are going to spawn and you have to defend these caravans. So in that kind of day phase, like I said, you can stock up. You're going to refresh some of your skills and items and weapons and things like that. And these caravans are going to be moving along the board. There's going to be a daytime effect. And when you guys are finished in that day phase, we will move over to the night phase where these sheep are going to mutate. And so you are going to have a sheep mutation deck here where you are going to see a bunch of crazy looking sheep. I'll give you a couple couple previews of some of these crazy sheep that are in the board game. So each sheep is going to have a mutation. That mutation is going to apply to all of these sheep on the board. You'll see these different spaces on the board here: abandoned barn, overgrown orchard, well of corruption, twisted woods, old churchyard. Those are these spots where these sheep are going to be spawning from. So waves of sheep coming in every round, and that will be denoted by a certain deck over here, which is going to tell you where these sheep are going to spawn. And their number one goal is to get to these caravans and destroy these caravans. And so during this night phase, you're going to have the ability to ward off these sheep using different equipment. You know, you got shears, a flock buster. Each character is going to have its own unique gear, but you can also buy gear from those particular caravans during the course of the game through herd thinner, electric fence whip. So you'll collect essence from these particular sheep that will allow you to get better weapons and better equipment. And you're going to be doing this all through card play. So you'll have these cards, you'll be playing these cards, exhausting these cards to do damage to these particular sheep. What's unique about this one, there's some elemental things that are going on here. So some of these mutated sheeps are going to have elemental advantages and disadvantages. So you want to look out for weapons and things like that. But those are kind of the overall mechanics of the game. Like I said, I think they've done an excellent job with tying these mechanics in to the game of what you are doing, which is escorting these caravans, watching out for these hilarious mutated sheep. And they've hit a home run here in regards to the theme and making you feel really immersed and always involved into what's going on with the board and the game. So 9 out of 10 here when it comes to the theme. All right, guys, I'm gonna stay down here at the table real quick and talk about the components. So when it comes to the components, we're gonna be taking a look at the quality and usability of the physical pieces here. And I know this is a prototype, right? So there's a caveat with that, but based off this prototype and everything that I've seen here, I'm gonna go ahead and give the components a 7.5 out of 10. I was so close to giving this one an 8, but there are just a few little things that I want to discuss really quickly that they are going to have the ability to clean up during that mass production process. And I think it was just because this was a prototype that is what's going to happen. Okay, so in regards to the components, look, I think some of the things that they've done really well, you see a lot of the components that are laid out here. I would like for a bigger game, this thing does not take up a lot of table space. So I really enjoyed that. You have the board here. I think they've done an excellent job with the board of having the hexes be very visible and distinct so you know where the different spaces are. I love the artwork. I love the color here. All of the particular cards, the different types of sheep. I love the artwork on the sheep. On the spawn cards, everything is very distinct. There are just a little bit of color when we get to certain, if I can find one of these cards out here, there are certain cards that when you have, because you have 3 distinct type of sheep, normal sheep, standard sheep, and then I can't remember what the last type of sheep is called off the top of my head right now, expert sheep or something like that. There are certain cards that will denote those type of sheeps, and the coloring is just a little too dark with the background of some of these cards, and it does make it a little bit difficult to read. I don't have anything out at this particular moment, but that was one of the only things for me that was an issue with some of the cards. But in terms of the text and things like that, I think the text is very clear on a lot of the cards, and you'll be able to see it. In terms of the player boards, I really enjoyed the dual layer player boards. I think they've done a great job here. The only issue with the player boards is I wish right here in the center there was a back to this, so another overlay back here so that these pieces would not get stuck as much. So you slide these pieces in, and sometimes they'll be sticking out and sticking through, like they can stick all the way through, like you see, you might be able to see right there. And so sometimes it's a pain to kind of get them out. So I wish there's kind of a back here. I don't know if they intend to do that in the actual mass production copy of the game. And in regards to that, again, some of these particular spots, these cubes don't really fit in these spots. Now this player board, they fit really well. So that was kind of one of the only issues I had as well. And kind of the same thing for the caravans here. These cubes don't really fit in the little notches here of these caravan boards. But again, in my opinion, these are all things that they can clean up in the mass production phase or mass production portion of this campaign. And these are probably things, these are typical things you see in a prototype. But all in all, you know, I talked about a lot of bad things, but there are a lot of really, really good things when it comes to the components. Again, as I mentioned, the artwork, I really enjoy also these standee clips that they used. Let me get these standee clips. I really enjoy these standee clips that they used right here. You know, most standee clips, when you have these cardboard punch outs and you put them together like this, they kind of rip or rip the bottom of these cardboard pieces and smush them up. For whatever reason, these don't do that at all, and it just works really well. So I really enjoyed that. I love the little sheep. The little sheep is cute. Artwork is great. While this is a dark game, like I said, they've done a great job with the text on a lot of the cards where everything is clear and distinct. Like you can see here, everything is clear and distinct with what we want to do. So I really enjoy that. They have an abundance of different characters in the game. As I mentioned, there are 6 distinct characters, so there's a bunch of different options, right? You got the night deck, the day deck. So, you know, in terms of the components here in the box is actually not that big as well, which is great, right? For a 120-minute Euro style game. This is the box. Everything fits nicely in the box, including the board itself. So I think they've done a great job here with the components, with the insert here of the box in the storage pieces to be able to hold everything that you see here on the table, which is why I was so close to giving this one an 8 out of 10. Alrighty guys, moving on to the setup. So when it comes to the setup, we are taking a look at the time and ease of getting the game ready and getting this one to the table. And I'm gonna go ahead and give this one a 7.5 out of 10. Look, I think there is some moderate setup with the sheep. You know, this is a 120-minute game, so there are gonna be a couple things that you're gonna have to get out and denote. But I really don't think, you know, you're gonna have to shuffle a couple decks, but I really don't think it's that tedious because everything is going to have its own unique purpose. And like I said, there's not a massive table presence, and you can fit a lot of things on the board kind of like you see me do, right? They got a spot for these mutations. I've kind of put the day-night decks on these separate corners, so you're able to maximize the space that you have, and there's not a whole lot of different things. The most tedious part about this is going to be choosing your character and then getting the necessary equipments, top cards that you need, shuffling the different decks and putting those caravan cards out. You know, you're arranging the player boards, the caravans, the event decks, all that stuff. For me, again, it's standard setup for what you would expect from a typical Euro style game. So 7.5 out of 10 for me when it comes to the setup. All right, guys, moving on to the length. So when it comes to the length, we are taking a look at how well the game length fits the overall experience. Not necessarily taking a look at the total time, but the overall pacing and satisfaction you feel while playing this one. And I'm gonna go ahead and give the sheep a 9 out of 10 in this department. Look, I think the sheep does an excellent job with satisfaction and kind of pacing throughout the game. You know, you're alternating between these day and night cycles. You have clear objectives and things that you're trying to do during the daytime. You have clear objectives that you're trying to do during the nighttime. However, I do feel like it is just a tiny bit just too long, but overall it is still satisfying, right? You're having fun the whole time with the mechanics because you're always having to think. Again, you're trying to escort multiple caravans throughout your playthrough of the game. It's not just escorting one. So like you're trying to get one along and then you got one back here. And so you're having to think like, how do I get this one, protect this one? And then I got to go back and get this one. So you are always engaged. You're kind of always immersed into the game throughout the whole. For me, I wish, you know, instead of having a 120-minute tagline, we were more of like a 90-minute. I wish there was a way to kind of speed up the caravan's movement just a little bit. I think that would help because you kind of get to the tail end and you're like, whew, okay guys, we made it, right? Where I wish sometimes you could just move the processes along a little bit, just a tiny bit quicker. But even at that 120-minute playtime, I still think there's some excellent pacing and there's some excellent satisfaction you're going to have enjoying this one. All right, guys, moving on to difficulty. So when it comes to the difficulty, we are taking a look at how complex the rules in decision making are. So the higher the number here, the more complex and the more decision making there is to the game. The lower the number, the easier we feel the rules are and the less decision making that you're gonna have to make when playing this one. When it comes to the sheep, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and give this one a 7 out of 10. Look, I think the sheep is a thinky game game that's going to require some planning and some rules familiarity and kind of strategies that you're going to need. Look, this is a heavy-ish style game. You're going to have a player board. Your character is asymmetric. He's got its own play style. He's got some of his own cards. He's got resources that you're going to have to kind of manage. You're going to have to be trying to save all of these different caravans, so you're going to have to be thinking ahead a little bit. So there is some strategy with this one, and really there's a lot of strategy when it comes to this particular game because the sheep is very challenging, okay? And I mean challenging in a good way, and I do want to state that. This game is going to make you think. It's going to have you on your toes of how you guys are going to plan. You know, in a 2-player game, you got 3 caravans out there. In a 3-player game, you got 4 caravans out there. So it's really going to challenge you to think of how am I going to set up some future turns or my current turn to where, like, I don't know what sheep are coming, but I got to be prepared for a lot of sheep at this point or maybe no sheep at this point. And so it does require a good amount of strategy and cooperation in regards to that. So that's why I'm coming in this one with a 7 out of 10. All right, guys, I'm moving on to replayability. So when it comes to replayability, we're taking a look at how fresh and engaging the game feels after multiple plays. And I'm going to go ahead and give this one an 8.5 out of 10. Look, I think there is some great replayability with the sheep here. There's a great variety. There's room to explore a bunch of new strategies. There's 6 different shepherds that you can take the role of. Each of them has their own unique and distinct style of how they are going to play. There's 6 different caravans that are coming out, so you're always going to see, you know, most of the time you'll have a different setup of caravans. These caravans have their own build abilities and actions that they're going to take. The deck of equipment cards that the caravans are going to hold are going to be different every single time. So I think there's some great replayability potential here with this one. You got randomized the sheep mutations, you know, the events, the characters, kind of talked about all of those different things. So each run that you have or crack at the sheep that you have is going to feel fresh every single time. The different spawn points are going to be different. So I think they've done a really, really great job here with making these sheep feel fresh every single time you play this one. So 8.5 for me when it comes to the replayability. All right, guys, moving on to my overall rating. So I'm gonna go ahead and give these sheep an 8.5 out of 10. Look, I thoroughly enjoyed my time with the sheep. I think the sheep is a great cooperative game, and the sheep really does a great job of wearing this horror comedy theme proudly, okay? It does exactly what it set out to do. It does a great job of giving me this this back and forth struggle of, look, this game is very challenging, but there's a lot of things I can do, and sometimes I feel really successful, and sometimes I like, man, I have no idea how I'm about to get that caravan over there. I just got to take the L on this one. There's so many different things I really, really enjoy about this game. The replayability is high with all the different characters, all the different mutations, the different portals that the sheep are going to come out of, all the different equipment and caravans that you're going to encounter. This, to me, was just a great overall enjoyable experience. All right, guys, let's go ahead and talk about some things that I really, really enjoyed about the sheep. And the very first one is, I hinted at it just a little bit, I love the tower defense style feel of this game. You know, I love those tower defense style games, man. I can't remember any of them right now off the top of my head that I used to play. Like, it's not really tower defense, but like Orcs Unchained, I think was one. There was one where you were like Magic something Heroes or something like that. I played on the PlayStation a long time, but I think they've done a great job with kind of capturing that similar style and feel to this game for me, right? Except for your tower defenses, you're escorting these particular caravans, and you know, they've had different scenarios like, man, I'm blanking on a lot of these games, but you would see certain similar things or certain levels in certain games like that, where it's like, hey, you got to escort something to a position, and there's going to be waves of enemies that are going to be coming, and you have to defend this thing as it's kind of moving along. And I think they've done a great job with giving you that feel here. Is, you know, these caravans are moving. I'm trying to protect these caravans. I got to watch out for all these sheep that are spawning. You know, during the day phase, I can kind of restock up in between rounds, right? I can restock up, and then when that night phase comes, I got to watch out for all these different sheep and find a way to combat them, but I don't know where they're all coming from. So I think they've done a great job of capturing that feel. The second thing that I really enjoyed about this game is just the abundance of different characters and replayability options that I have here. Each run truly does feel fresh, right? I love these 6 asymmetric carriers. Each of them has their own unique playstyle, right? You're gonna have kind of the DPSs, you're gonna have the healers, you're gonna have the tank per se. And so I really enjoyed getting to play all these different characters and their unique playstyles with the different skills and things like that that they have at their abundance. You know, it really does a great job. And as well as the caravans, having 6 caravans, they really giving you a bunch of options in this core box that just gives you a lot of replayability value here when it comes to that. So that's something else I really enjoyed. Okay guys, let's talk about some things that I particularly did not like about this one. And segueing right off what I just talked about, where there's an abundance of characters, I did not like how it seems certain characters do not work well at certain player counts. So of course there's one character in the game that is kind of dubbed as a healer, and he looks cool. I like a lot of his skills and things like that, and I tried to play him in a 2-player count or 2-player game, and I don't know if I just played him incorrectly or not, but it just seemed like he was worthless kind of in a 2-player game. And so for me, like I said, I don't particularly like how it seems that there are certain characters that are only good at certain characters, at player counts. I want to have all 6 characters be able to be played at certain player counts, because then it gives me even more replayability and it gives me kind of this freshness throughout the game. And so like I said, hey look, I could have been playing that guy completely wrong, but for me it just feels like some of these characters work really well at 2 players, and then then don't really work well at 2 players, and certain combinations of characters don't really work well together. So I just wish there was a little bit more balancing when it came to that with some of these shepherds that you're taking on the roll-up. Okay, last thing that I particularly did not like, and again, this one is like a minute, like a microscopic thing, is I talked about it earlier, is I just feel like sometimes the game is just teeny slightly bit too long. And so I wish there was some cards or equipment that you could buy where it had an ability to like increase the movement of the caravans during that caravan step, because the caravans are only going to move 2 spaces, and that's what kind of makes the game so long. So I wish there was a way, there were cards or something I could play where these caravans are going to move like 3 spaces or maybe 4 spaces to kind of help speed the game up just a little bit. Because like I said, for me, this is one of those games that I really enjoyed, and I wanted to be able to play this a second time, but that 120-minute mark is very accurate, and that is a long time, right? That's a long time to be playing this game. You kind of finish this game and you're kind of like, whew, man, like, because you're having to think a whole lot. Like, it is kind of, it's not a chore, but it is exhausting after you play this, because you're putting all this effort into, like, you succeed or you fail, and you're like, all right, man, I need to kind of decompress, right? I just wish that this game was just a little bit slightly faster to play, so that you could just get maybe one more playthrough in and kind of restart the run, right? So that is, I mean, for me, again, guys, it is a microscopic thing that I did not enjoy. As I stand on it, the pacing and the satisfaction you kind of feel throughout this game is great, but it's like one of those where like I get done with it and I want to get it back to the table again, but a lot of us felt really like exhausted after playing it one time, and so it's like, okay, we would probably only play this once in a game night instead of twice. And for me, because I love this style of game, I want to be able to feel like I can play this multiple times in one night. But the way the kind of everything is structured and set up right now, this is kind of a, you play this one time and then you go on to something else, like a palate cleanser or something like that, and then you would probably pick this back up like the next day or the day after if you wanted to try another run. But those are the things that I particularly did not like or care for when it came to the sheep. But overall, guys, look, I'm standing on this one. I love the sheep. I think this is a great, hilarious, funny, cooperative style game. If you like tower defense feel style games, if you like this back and forth tension, and you love cooperative games, then the sheep is going to be right up your alley, guys. 8.5 out of 10 for me. Really, really enjoyed this one. All right, guys, that's enough for me. That is my review. If you enjoyed this content, smash that like button, hit the notification bell, drop down in the comments below. What do you guys think about the sheep? Do you think this is right for your game group? And as always, guys, if you are not subscribed to our channel, please go ahead and subscribe so we can keep bringing you some more awesome content. All right, guys, have a great one. Bye.